about your data, all of your soft skills and all of your data when it comes to this whole metaverse and Web3. And we actually have two incredible speakers. We have Tannya, and we also have Veeresh. And Veeresh, I can proudly say, is from our GLEAC team, in charge of our security at GLEAC team. And hold on, probably one of the most shy individuals you'd ever come across, and he's here today presenting. So I'm like a proud mother hen today on that. So let me get it set up. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I want everyone to please copy the link, the Trustpilot link. Stay on. As I stop sharing my screen and set up, I'm going to allow Tannya to start by setting up her presentation.
Sure.
And so copy that. I'm going to stop share. Can someone please make Tannya co-host?
Hi, Sal. Yes, it's already done.
It's already done. How are you, Tannya? Am I pronouncing your name correct?
Hold on just a sec. Yes, you are. You are. I'm great. How are you?
I am good. It's been forever.
I know. It's lovely to hear you go on about what was a really fascinating topic. I'm sad. I'm disappointed I missed most of it. So just give me a second. I'm just setting up my screen. Just a sec.
Okay, cool. So I can put on. Tell me when you're set up. And Veeresh, are we here? Hold on. Did Veeresh show up on me? Veeresh, are you here in the room? Are you here, Veeresh? So guys, I have the funniest story to share about Veeresh. You know, Veeresh never speaks. I mean, like, never speaks. And we met for the first time in December. I took a trip to Bangalore and, you know, sat at a meal with Veeresh, did not speak.
Oh, yeah.
And then, hold on, it was, you know, a company retreat presentation time. And Veeresh puts up this presentation, and, you know, at the company retreat, you had to present something about what you were working on, and you had to present something completely unrelated to work. And Veeresh did this presentation about biology and the meaning of life that floored all of us. And I was like, you know what? Like, that was a TED Talk. That was a TED Talk, right? So Tannya, I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah.
I'm allowing you to get started. Exciting topic. Let's go.
Really exciting topic. Thank you for having me. So to introduce myself, I'm Tannya Jajal. I currently work at VMware. That's such a boring statement, but I'm going to say it. I work at VMware as the cloud networking and security partner manager, right? So my job, VMware is a large leading conglomerate in the multi-cloud space. So we essentially help enterprises move to the cloud, and more importantly, we help them do it securely. So my job is to kind of go out there to market, tell people what data vulnerabilities they might face, right? And get other organizations that VMware partners with to help these enterprises move to the cloud whilst maintaining the security and sort of sovereignty of their customers' data, right? So think healthcare, banking, retail, all of these industries. But I'm also have a really vested interest in artificial intelligence.
You're breaking up, Tannya.
Few years, I've spent a lot of time. Oh, am I?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I think you want to try again?
Yeah. Is any better?
Yeah. Better.
Better. Okay. Good. So over the past few years, I have given a lot of talks around artificial intelligence, and I have a particularly vested interest in the techno-philosophical aspect of it, right? So what does a post-AI world look like? What are some of the challenges of a post-AI world? And what will it mean to be human, most importantly, in a post-artificial intelligence world? And we'll dive a little bit deeper into why I think that's so fascinating. But today, Sally Ann and the team invited me to talk about Metaverse. Is the sound okay now?
Yes, the sound is okay.
Yeah. Okay, good. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the intersection of artificial intelligence and the Metaverse. And the way that I see it is these are two words that are so massively sort of overused and used wrongly. So I'll start initially with an overview of what I think the Metaverse is. And, you know, I'm going to keep it really simple. I see the metaverse as a broad shift in how we interact with technology. And the reason that I keep it vague is because it is vague, right? And to help you kind of get a sense of how vague the term metaverse is, I read this in Wired magazine. They say, consider trying to mentally replace the phrase the metaverse in a sentence with cyberspace, right? Most of the time, it won't mean anything. It won't substantially change, right? It won't mean anything specific. And that's because the term doesn't really refer to a specific type of technology, but rather a broad shift in how we interact with technology. So the way that I like to think about the devices that we interact with today, about the Internet of Things, about the way that we interact in social realms, on social media, is that it is in many ways an extension of our neocortex, an extension of our cognition. And I think that the word metaverse might eventually even become irrelevant, right? To the point of not being, or not necessarily irrelevant, maybe more antiquated, to the point of not having the same sort of wow factor that it has right now. But what will have the wow factor are the technologies that come with the metaverse, right? This could include virtual reality, of course. It could also include augmented reality, right? It could also just include virtual worlds, meaning the kind of worlds that we already interact in today, right? And when we're thinking about the kind of worlds we interact with today, we have our social selves in the physical world, right? Our physical social selves. But we also have, and that's often defined by physical identity, how we look, dress, interact with people, our body language, and so on. But there's also our virtual identity, which is how we sort of display ourselves on social media platforms. And that's becoming increasingly important. And as we progress, the different ways in which we'll be able to form a sense of the self or sense of the identity, our identity will be able to expand. And I find that to be a really sort of exciting aspect of the metaverse, because it means that we can almost expand our sense of self and play around with our personalities and different parts of our cognition, right? What I'm trying to say, though, is that metaverse spaces don't necessarily need to be accessed via virtual reality or augmented reality, though that is the next generation view of where we're going. Today, a lot of people already access metaverse or VR worlds, or virtual worlds rather, through PC games and so on, things like Fortnite, right? And now I want to just kind of take a second to talk about what AI is. And AI, just like the metaverse is a simulation of physical reality, AI is a simulation of our own intelligence. And in that sense, it's an inherent component of the metaverse. So in many ways, they're coexistent. One won't exist without the other, right? And that's part of why I'm so interested in the metaverse as well, in AI as well, because I don't think there's any other technology that we've built in the history of technological development that has tried to simulate aspects of our own intelligence in the way that AI will. So it's almost groundbreaking. And I look to Ray Kurzweil a lot. Ray Kurzweil was the former director of engineering at Google and one of the best known predictors of future technology. And he says in this beautiful quote, our technology, our machines, is part of our humanity. We created them to extend ourselves, and that's what's unique about human beings. So to debunk, I always like to give people an overview of the different kinds of AI that we're surrounded by today. A lot of people tend to interchange the term robot with artificial intelligence, but really, there's kind of three places that AI could go. Today, most of the artificial intelligence that we're surrounded by is narrow artificial intelligence, right? All of it actually is narrow AI. And I don't like that term because it doesn't do AI justice, the all of our AI justice. But narrow AI systems are essentially systems that have a specific task and that are given access to a specific data set. And this is AI that's asked to complete a task in response to that data set, right? So think Google Assistant, think checking the weather, think a specific task rather than a broad range of tasks. So unlike a human child, and I like to liken narrow AI to a child that's learning, a human child can learn how to do multiple things at the same time, can learn how to play chess, can learn a sport, can learn a language, right? Almost simultaneously. Whereas most AI are designed to complete a particular task, which is learn how to play chess and beat the world's best chess player, right? Now, the fear, or maybe the excitement, is that we'll hop from narrow AI to general AI in the near future. And when we'll do that is unprecedented. But general AI is defined by AI that matches human level general intelligence. So that would be, if you've ever watched the movie Her, excellent sci-fi movie, that would be the kind of AI that is capable of achieving multiple goals, that is capable of almost thinking for itself, and that is capable of defining its own goals in some ways in a very human-like way. When and how we'll reach general AI is yet to be known, because artificial intelligence is on this exponential growth, a curve of growth, which means that the shift or the jump could almost be unprecedented. And then super AI is an even more hypothetical point in the future, where AI will completely surpass human level intelligence, right? And that's maybe something for something that's kind of limited to the sci-fi realm for now. But a lot of AI specialists believe that that could actually happen once we reach general AI. So the real question is, when do we get from narrow to general? And so, aspects of human intelligence that are easiest to automate and that'll be relevant in the metaverse are really things like linear thinking, right? And this is why I always tell people, when you're considering a career or a job for the future, you want to think beyond the kind of skill sets that AI can automate or can do better than us. And that's things like pattern and image recognition, taking large subsets of data and being able to parse that data, right? And doing simple input A to output B calculations. Now, because the leap from narrow AI to general or super AI is unprecedented, what could happen is that we might one day have AI that could be conscious, that could be self-aware, that could have an avatar of its own, and that may operate as such in the metaverse, right? Now, let's backtrack to the metaverse a little bit. The metaverse, by virtue of being an extension of our physical reality, whether it's through social platforms or something more immersive like virtual reality platforms, will be a multi-trillion-dollar market, right? That spans the realm of all the activities, human activities that we engage in, from gaming to shopping to fitness and education. What that also means is that it will create massive amounts of data. And I liked this little statistic that I saw, or this little piece of data that I saw, information that I saw, which is that 20 minutes of VR use by any one of us who puts on like an Oculus headset can generate 2 million unique data elements. And that's not just your password, your credit card information, or the way that the sort of information that we put to log into and utilize platforms, but it's also things that we don't necessarily pay attention to or that we think are being recorded. Things like the way that you breathe, your heart rate, the way that you think, the way you walk, your minor body movements, right? An excellent example of how virtual reality is sort of combining with artificial intelligence to do that is you've got these VR worlds, and you've got what some folks are now using in the therapy space, which are AI-led therapists, right? There's an AI therapist based in California known as Ella, I think, and she or it essentially talks to patients and picks up on cues, nonverbal cues that a human therapist wouldn't be able to pick up on. Things like a twitch or things like sort of things that are most subconscious, much more subtle, uses facial recognition software, takes that information and makes a judgment or makes a prescription for what the patient might need to be able to improve their health. Now, what all that is to say that AI will not just help create a more expansive metaverse, but it will also help us parse and make sense of the data that is created within the metaverse. But it could also mean that our data is now vulnerable within the metaverse. So one way in which this could happen is that we could have we could use artificial intelligence and the creators and users of the metaverse to essentially create intimate profiles, not just profiles of individuals, but intimate profiles of individuals, right? So consider something like prescription glasses that have an augmented reality functionality. These would not only provide real-time heads-up displays and overlays of information, but they could also contain a selfie type camera that tracks what your eye is looking at, so what you're interested in. So if you look toward an Italian or an Indian restaurant, you'll be presented with an offer for takeout from that business, right? And on the other side of the augmented reality lens, the people around the wearer will be concerned about whether individuals are being recorded and subject to facial recognition without their knowledge. So some organizations may want to bar such devices from sensitive areas to limit the leakage or confidentiality concerns, right? So think about a metaverse operating, an organization like a hospital or healthcare operating in the metaverse, right? So now what's going to happen is that data will continue to bleed between the virtual and the physical worlds, and real world information or preferences that are unintentionally disclosed, right, from an individual are displayed by your avatar in the virtual world, can be used to identify you in the real world. So that's a real kind of privacy and data concern. And today, organizations like really groundbreaking companies like NVIDIA are actually using AI to make your avatar in the VR world to be more realistic, not just your avatar, but to make the entire VR world more realistic looking, right? So less sort of virtual world seeming and more real seeming, which means that it will also be able to draw from the sort of data we have out there right now and what humans look like to be able to create avatars and sort of personas of actual human beings, which is a good thing because it means that it might feel more real, but also means that we're much more vulnerable to letting ourselves be recognized in the physical world when we might want to maintain that confidentiality in the virtual world. Then there's, of course, the elephant in the room, which is the issue of determining the data controller, right? So what is the data controller? The data controller is essentially it's the person who's, or the entity rather, that is collecting the data and deciding what needs to be done with that data, right? So we already kind of interact in this space, right? Every time we use social media, every time we accept cookies, every time we interact on our phones or any of our devices, we have to kind of tick off privacy laws, or we have to be cognizant and aware of them, right, at the sign up stage. But this will become even more salient when we do everything in the metaverse, right? So let's say that you attend a virtual concert in the Sandbox, which is a concert stage within the metaverse, right? And let's say that you can create, buy, and sell digital assets using a public blockchain, and you purchase a ticket in the form of an NFT using your crypto wallet, right? Who is the data controller during that entire transaction? Who's responsible for compliance with privacy laws? What are the privacy laws? Is it the Sandbox, which is the provider of entertainment? Is it the crypto wallet provider, the NFT marketplace, or is it the actual concert, the musician, the entertainer themselves? These are questions, really salient questions that we'll have to answer within the metaverse. And finally, we'll have to learn how to navigate really the metaverse space, right? And this includes navigating if the people or avatars or entities that we're interacting with in that space are deep fakes or not. And deep fakes are essentially non-human entities, right? Or the creation of virtual entities that very much mimic or can be used to duplicate what a human could do. So in reality, somebody could use artificial intelligence software to create a deep fake of me using all the photos and videos and content they can find of me online, and then deploy that in an application and essentially be able deployed in an application. Sorry, I got a bit distracted. Someone opened the door. Deployed in the application or in a video, in a YouTube video, and say, oh, that was Tannya doing XYZ, right? So we have yet to fully appreciate the impact of extended reality devices on our own perception of reality. So we have to ask ourselves, how much will we take information at face value in the virtual reality world? How will information be presented, right? This is difficult enough. We already struggle with it. We struggle with telling what's real and what isn't in the virtual world. So we need to start preparing ourselves for how to deal on a next level with scammers who use deepfake avatars in the metaverse, or who create deepfakes based on all the information that they have about us that exists in the metaverse to then be used in the real world or in the physical world. So some measures that we could take would be adopting a privacy by design or security by design approach, right? Where we're guided by a strong sense of data responsibility, and we give individuals transparency and granular controls over use of their data. On the other hand, something we could do is that manufacturers could consider establishing sort of common standards for interacting with their technology in the metaverse. Now, in many ways, I think the problem that we had historically when we started interacting on the internet and in virtual spaces is that we kind of sleepwalked into it, right? So now we, the risks are much greater. So we can't really sleepwalk into the next era. We need to invest in having the right discussions, the right analysis, and the right governance to ensure that we don't sleepwalk into the metaverse. And whatever version that we create of reality, whatever extended version that we create, has to have certain zones, certain no filming or no recording zones that protect individuals, so that we can really use these spaces for what they're meant to be used for, which is not just creating another market for interacting, but also exploring and experimenting with our sense of self. If we want to be able to create those identities in a safe way that allows us to almost philosophically consider, what it means to be Tannya, what it means to be Salyan, then we need to be able to feel safe within those spaces. And that's really where data and privacy laws come into place. And a really big call to action is that we need to not only start having these discussions right now in the sort of forum that we're having it, but we also need to empower the next generation to think about these things, to think in an interdisciplinary way, and to create ethics, laws, and policies to be able to navigate this era of exponential change. So I always like to consider what the role of humans will be in a post-AI and post-metaverse world, where avatars and interactions might also include non-human entities. And what skills will we need to navigate the metaverse? And the skills that really come to mind to me are aligned with Howard Gardner's skills of the future, critical survival skills of the future. He's a famous educator from Harvard. And he says, what we should be focusing on now are things like adaptability and agility, analytical problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration and leading through influence, abstract thinking, and emotional intelligence, right? These are absolutely critical if we want to make sure that we don't, as I said previously, sleepwalk into the metaverse era. And really all of it, this eruption of exponential technology is leading to what's known as the technological singularity. So the upside of having a large explosion of AI applications is that we'll be able to almost saturate the universe with our intelligence, right? We'll be able to use metaverse spaces, we'll be able to use the information that we glean from all of these spaces to gain a deeper understanding of the greater universe, our greater sense of self within physical reality. And that's really exciting. So really the way that I see it, as AI evolves, as the metaverse evolves, the possibilities and the risks are both endless. And I'd like to end on that note.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. I don't know if I'm excited, afraid, or more questions. We have a great point from Antoine, who says in the chat, privacy laws as GDPR, CCPA as others are there to address those issues. It would be interesting to see how they would evolve with the meta being the new change.
Yeah, it would be really interesting to see how they evolve. interestingly, we've fallen back a little bit on the pace of how fast those laws should have evolved historically, right? And we're seeing that with our use of social media platforms now, and the large amount of media attention that the very specific situations have sort of induced over the last few years. So I think it's really important that we employ the right kind of people within those organizations who think, who have that ability to think critically, and who have the ability to take a big picture perspective, because within those spaces, it's very easy to get bogged down in the details and forget about the holistic picture, right? And I think that's really, really the key to either upskilling our existing workforce to be able to think holistically, or hiring the right people who can think holistically and can think in that exponential sort of framework.
Okay. Does anyone, Tannya, you were just a poster girl for GLEAC, you know that, right? With all those soft skills.
I know, it's not even intentional. Every talk. I can guarantee it's not intentional. I do that in all my talks because I genuinely believe it. So
okay, so Tannya, let's stop the sharing. Does anyone have, before we get into, so Veeresh's presentation is more on the technical side of data security. Does anyone have any questions? And please, you can just turn your mic on and speak up if you have any questions for Tannya. Any? Okay, so you can type it in then. Veeresh, are you still? Yeah, Veeresh, are you still in the room or did you run away? Are you there? Is he there?
Veeresh? Him.
Yeah, I'm muted. Sorry. Yeah.
So everyone, Veeresh, I'm super proud to tell you, Veeresh is part of our engineering team at GLEAC, and clearly working on all of our pin testing and, all of the things as we get ready to get into this space. So what an absolute privilege to have him come and share, his very technical side of, protecting privacy and data in the space. So Veeresh, do you want to go ahead and share your presentation?
Yes, sir.
There we go.
Hello, everyone. So you guys are able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we are. Hold on, hold on before you start. I do feel like a proud mother hen, you know that, right? All right, let's go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Veeresh. I'm working as a tech manager in GLEAC. I'm very curious person. So I'm very curious about technology and biology stuff. Okay. Today I'm presenting AI and the data security in the metaverse. So I will start with the basic of metaverse. Like, what is a metaverse? Metaverse is a virtual world. So where we can able to create our own digital avatars, we can able to play with others, we can able to socialize. For example, we can attend our company meeting in metaverse, or we can able to play multiplayer games, etc. And it will in metaverse we'll use for more immersive experience, we'll use AR and VR technologies, and also we'll use wearable devices for touch and haptic feedback because we can experience touch and sensations. And it's more like, if you guys anyone seen the movies, something like Matrix and Ready One Player. So where will the players will go into the virtual world, so they will play there. So if anyone seen it, like much more like a metaverse will evolve in the future. So in metaverse, we also have a digital assets called as NFTs. It can be a piece of artwork, it can be a song, or it can be a virtual land in the metaverse, so that we can able to buy them or sell them using cryptocurrency. So metaverse uses the blockchain technology for underlying technology, so that we can have a transactions safe and secure manner. Due to centralization, decentralization, and the immutability nature of blockchain, it's impossible to hack our identities in the blockchain. So next, I want to talk about role of AI in the metaverse. So we can use AI for generating our own virtual avatars based on our images, based on our data, something like videos or images. So AI can able to create our own avatar in the metaverse. And this can also use it for language processing. so that we can able to interact with the metaverse using our own natural English commands. And also use it for facial recognition, so we can able to authenticate with the metaverse using our face. And AI also can be used for creating bots which are pre-programmed, so it will help us when we land into metaverse. It can be we can program the boards. We can help the users how we can able to navigate in the metaverse, how we can able to experience better. It will show the ways. So these boards can show like how we can experience metaverse better. So we can create this kind of boards also. So AI will be learning continuously from the our activities in the metaverse, so that it will evolve itself and also create a better experience of metaverse. So next, I want to talk about data in the metaverse. There's a huge concern like what kind of data is traveling in metaverse and how we can secure what's the privacy and everything. So for any AI intelligence algorithm to work, they need a huge set of data, so they can able to predict accurately and act accordingly. So they need a huge, enormous amounts of data. So how much data is collected in metaverse? As Tannya said, even simple VR experience 20 minutes can collect up to 2 million unique data set points. And what kind of data can be collected? Because the immersive experience of metaverse, so we are experienced using VR and AR headset, and also some kind of wearable devices like health tracking watches, so that we can able to collect much more data than our normal 2D online browsing. So here we can collect our biometrics, some kind of our voice and facial expressions, and also it can be like our health record, like our breaths, and also blood pressure, how we can act, so how we can act, how we can talk, how we can walk in the metaverse. So those data can all can be tracked in the metaverse. So why companies will track this kind of data? Because they want to improve the metaverse experience. They also users want to feel real. It should be like users can able to feel it's a metaverse, is it real? So we can they can use this kind of data to improve metaverse using AI technology, so that we can able to will be feel like a really immersed in the experience. So AI will be always be a double-edged sword, because it can be used for good purposes and also bad purposes. So for good purpose, it can able to improve our metaverse experience, and also it can able to detect whether the user is a real user or malicious user based on our previous actions. So in previous, we'll how we'll act interact in the metaverse, those can be tracked and trained. So AI can able to detect what are the new author logs into metaverse, it can able to differentiate it's a malicious user or a real user. And also downside of it, we can able to create a boards based on our AI profile, so that we can able to really we cannot able to differentiate whether we are talking to a bot or a real person behind that avatar. So this is a downside of that one. So when we log into a metaverse, we don't know whether we are reacting with a real person or a bot.
Hold on. Is this you, Veeresh, or is it a bot?
No, it's
All right.
and when come to security part, there's huge concern for security, because like immersive nature of these AR VR devices, and also like some smart gadgets, the amount of data is tracked, it's include very sensitive data. So how we can make sure that data is always secure? Because there's no current any regulations for metaverse, like what kind of data can be tracked, how it can be shared with the advertisers or something. Because it will take in like 20 years to create a GDPR, some kind of data compliances for Web 2.0. For Web 3.0, we don't still have any kind of regulations. But like Meta is trying to create their own well-defined privacy control for like Meta users. So this is a need of the term. We need to define like a well-controlled privacy laws, privacy protocols for the users. So the user can able to opt in or opt out based on the, we can able to allow them to collect data or disallow them. And data breach in this kind of metaverse, because sensitivity of data is like very catastrophic, because they're tracking entire thing like our health records, our facial features, how we can walk, how we talk, how we can speak, or so entire behavioral act and psychological aspects also can be tracked using these devices, and those can be like in case of database, it will be very catastrophic. So that companies who are creating these metaverse experiences, they need to get multiple layers of security, so that these data breaches can be very much minimized. And also still still like the data breaches will not happen at server side. So most of them it will happen on the end users because those are not technical. So attackers will the attackers cannot able to target the servers very easily, but they can able to target end users very much easily. For example, in OpenSea, and last year there is around like 1 million valued NFTs are stolen based on simple phishing emails. The phishing email it will look like very legit. It comes from really from the OpenSea. It will ask us to relog into OpenSea so that they can able to track our credentials and restore their NFTs. So still Metaverse also will point to traditional IT attacks like email phishing or social engineering. And security in the Metaverse is still early stage because we don't know like what kind of attacks comes in the future because using AI tools. Because in this days we can able to get the data without any coding. We can able to train the AI algorithms. We can able to so the system will able to suggest like which algorithm will work for this kind of data simply based on data only. So such kind of no code means no coding AI tools also available in cloud providers, so that attackers can able to store our data. They can able to train their own AI algorithms without any coding. So that's a concern. Still, security in early stage, like all over all over world engineers are working to strengthen the security in the metaverse. And how we can secure our data in the metaverse?
We can't see the slide. The slide didn't change, Veeresh. It's still the one on security. Is that what you want?
Yeah, still here only.
Okay.
So how we can secure our data in the metaverse? So that any company is providing metaverse experience, they will provide privacy control. So that we need to give access only which data we need to provide them. Or we can turn up this will defend the security privacy with there. And also we need to check like authentication, like any phishing email, social engineering, because the end users are more not technical, they will easily fall for this one. And also some kind of malicious program, which will track our webcams, or will track our microphones, or will track our keyboards, like which keystroke we can type. So that so most of the data security part with the servers, and also like both it will be like both users and the servers, like who is creating companies who is creating this metaverse experience. The security on both parts, like both end users and companies. Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, good job, Veeresh. Good job. So Veeresh, I have a question for you, for everyone in here, that we're going into the metaverse, and I know we're doing pen testing and all of these things. Like, what are some of the for all of us that's going into the metaverse, like what are some of the basic things that I know you said in terms of your but what are some of the basic things we're doing at GLEAC just to make sure that our users are safe? Certainly being in our, we're not going into AR and VR, but just our basic NFTs.
Yes, sir. We're using our cloud providers like AWS. So they will provide like that security comes in two parts. One, like attackers directly stole their hardware device directly. So
hold on. Before you continue, Tannya, I'm so sorry. We're not using VMware. Is she here? I don't know if she's here. All right, keep going, Veeresh.
No, sir. Actually, we are using cloud services, right? They will by their end they will use internally VMware. So that whatever cloud services they are providing, they were providing on top of VMware only. So we are not seeing that underlying architecture.
Okay. All right. So what are we doing at GLEAC, Veeresh, to protect our users?
So first we are using like cloud services so that we don't need to. So they will take care of like our hardwares, like where our data is stored. And we are using like two-stage encryption algorithms, so that like whatever the even still attackers can get the data, but it's not used for them because we are encrypting 2 times and storing that data in the cloud services.
Okay. Anything else that we're doing? It's okay. Your answer could be no. All right. I have Antoine's. Identity protection is definitely a top priority, essentially with NFTs for your data subjects, where their NFT is becoming an expensive commodity. So for us, Antoine, Veeresh, can you stop share?
Yes.
That would be awesome. So for us, Antoine, our NFTs, it's the underlying asset of time. So really the overlay of the artwork is really minimal value. Our real value is what happens with that time with the individuals in terms of the NFT. And what happens in that time, both parties can decide to keep it off chain, or they can keep it on chain if they want to tokenize it further, whatever is created in terms of that time, in terms of NFT. What are some of your concerns, guys, of all of you going into the space and security and AI? Like, let me hear from some of you, whether you want to type it in. What are some of your concerns? Certainly signing up and going into any of these spaces in Metaverse. Any of you? Concerns about your security? What if I showed up in the Metaverse and I see someone sounding and acting like Lori, but I know it's not Lori? Who do I report it to? Lori, who do you go report that to?
Yeah, I think people act as if this is another world, but I mean, studies have shown for many, many years now that whatever we do in any space, virtual, not virtual, even 100 years ago, there was this Second Life or whatever. We're going to have the good, bad, and ugly in the metaverse as well. So, and I think the big debate now is the decentralization and, all this openness and yet, regulation. So I think it's really going to be fascinating. And I think back to the previous topic, is there a level of self-regulation, that we're going to trust on humanity to step up and to really create ecosystems where there is that more positive energy? Because I think the whole point is not to rely on the Facebooks or the big boys anymore, but then it does rely on us as human beings to step up. So does that make our human skills even more critical? So
yeah, because technically if there's a fake identity now, we send a message to everybody, that's a fake identity on email, or that's a fake identity on Facebook, right? And we go report it to someone. What if there is your fake identity in Metaverse? Who do you report it to?
Well, I just had a case this morning in a bigger WhatsApp group that there's been a bit of a scam around here. Now, we don't know, is there a scammer behind the scammers? So the scammers are not really the scammers, but the people behind it are just destroying their reputation for some reason. So, will the regulators really control that, or does that become a community thing that the community will figure out? Again, I'm talking about utopian society here. So, yeah. Because even the regulators, they don't always work. I mean, if you look at the big establishment nowadays, banks aren't trusted anymore. So even the guys that we would have trusted in the past to go and deal with this are not stepping up. So yeah, so I don't have an answer. I think it's going to be interesting space.
Okay, so I'm going to take a poll. Let me see pictures with polls, and I want to see hands in this poll. Can I see faces, please? And hands. I'm going to do a security poll on here. Are we all on here? Are we all on here? Are we all on here? So I can see hands in the pool. Okay. So this means I think everything is going to be, I'm okay with it. This means it will sort itself out. This means I'm really, really scared. How many of you where are you in terms of entering the metaverse and what would happen with your data and your security, your sense of security in the metaverse? Where are you? Are you here? Are you, which is the lowest level of alarm? Are you here, or are you like high level of alarm? Showing hands. Where are you guys right now? Let's see where we are right now. Hold on. I'm getting a picture of us of where we are. Let's go. Gerline is all the way up. She's like, I'm scared. All right, and there I'm seeing you. Hold on, let me get all of you. Yes, so and that's why we're talking about it, right? Because it's through the talking through. We're all living through a time where only now governments are naming their first metaverse governing bodies, and those people are people who are brand new in the space coming together and creating those laws and starting to create something, right? Like that might be around it. So you have a chance. And I don't know if you guys noticed the trend in all the conversations across the board in the metaverse. It's the human skills. It's our human ingenuity that keeps coming up over and over because hold on, the hard skills for the space, everybody's learning it. It's brand new. So it's not like I had 20 years experience in the metaverse, right? It's all the human skills about, judgment and decision making, critical thinking, creativity. So, hold on, it's a great time to be human, guys. It's a great time. There's no better time to be human. And on that note, we will end our discussions for today. Thank you guys, all of you who were here for the prior session on toxic workplaces and this session. As you know, before you go, we have our NFT drop on, keep the date in mind, October 15th. If you haven't gone yet and looked at the site, it's called lovelyhumans.io.